should be live.
So this is December 16th, the Webster Planning Board meeting, regular meeting. We're going to start by taking attendance, as we usually do.
Susan Young, present.
Susan Young's present.
Adam Mock.
Craig Fournier.
Marlo Herrick.
So we have 4 out of the 5 members present tonight.
Definitely a quorum.
Definitely a quorum. And Kathy is not here tonight either. Okay, let's go for the driveway permit. You want to talk about the driveway permit?
Sure. So I purchased that land just a couple of weeks ago, and it's 2 parcels. I believe right now I'm in the process with Russ in combining them from 2 parcels to 1, because I think it just makes a lot of sense. They're contiguous. So inside of there, it's kind of mucky and is overgrown brush. I would say within that full acre, there is probably maybe about half a dozen mature trees, large like maples. I think there's a couple of, it's hard to tell without leaves on there, but there's not a lot of mature trees inside of there. It's all just brush. And so when I walked it out with Emmett Bean,
Yep.
I walked out the property with him. He seemed to know every inch of Webster, to be quite frank with you. He pointed out everything that was there that I already was aware of, that there was a culvert on the far right-hand side, and that seems to just be wet, where the water kind of stands and meanders and heads down towards what I would assume is Pillsbury Lake on the back side. Oh, that's where it naturally drains to. So I have drawings over here, but about I think about 30 or 40 feet from the property line on the left-hand side, which I think is the address is 54 Centennial. There seemed to be a natural opening that would allow to put a driveway through there, and then a turnaround kind of sort of in that middle, however you want to sort of define that. And Emmett was like, yeah, this seems to be a natural spot for it. And he pointed out to me that the way that the land or the grade of the road is, from the left-hand side, the water comes down Centennial, and it seems to land inside the lot. And so what he said was, what we'd end up doing is put a driveway in that would be about 14 feet and about 30 feet in. Underneath that, he recommended an 18-inch culvert, which he said was just no different than the other ones. He's going to put these in all the time. That would just simply mitigate any water that would be coming down the road when it rains or whatever it is, and then would just continue on its way, versus pooling on the left-hand side of this driveway. So because if you just went over here, it's just going to continue on its merry way, and then kind of just go out where it is. Like I said, I assume it looks like it's flowing downhill and going towards Pillsbury Lake on the back side. So he goes, yeah, that really shouldn't be a problem. The low brush of anything that seems to be like ferns or anything growing around in that area, quite frankly, I think it's because it's always damp there, and there's no sunlight getting through because it's just brush. I mean, you walk through there and it's just scrub brush. And like I said, if you walked it out, there's maybe about half a dozen mature trees, and I even think it's less than half a dozen, to be quite frank with you. There was one big monster that was up. That canopy takes up a lot of the sky, but everything other than that is probably less than 10, 12 feet. It's just, watch where you're walking, because the roots are every place, so to speak. I asked Emmett, I go, you seen it? He probably goes, no. He goes, if you're just going to clear all this brush, it's just scrub brush, clear this all out, we'd be able to have a pad poured here, have the turnaround attached to it, kind of like a fly swatter or whatever you want to call that shape. Put the culvert underneath and have the water just continue going through. He said, I don't see why there'd be any problem with that whatsoever. So I was like, okay. He goes, just apply for the permit, because you need a permit for a driveway and the turnaround. I said, okay. I said, yeah, any reason why you see there's going to be a problem? He goes, no, not really. It just seems pretty straightforward as long as you put the culvert in. And I said, yeah, well, I'd probably have you do the work since you know what you're doing around here. He goes, yeah, I put a culvert in. That'd be an 18-inch one. I said, okay, great. And then that was the end of it. So I applied for the permit, and then the other gentleman, I think his name is Paul.
So Paul's seen it?
Yeah.
I was told he had seen it, and then there was, and that really, I never spoke with Paul. I've never seen anything from him, so I don't really know. I spoke with Emmett and said, do you see any reason why? He goes, no, I'll speak with Paul. He goes, Paul is above me as far as all this process goes. But he just said, I'll speak to him if I get a chance, whatever it may be, but maybe he's not aware you're gonna put a culvert in, all those other things, and he just simply said, I'll just track him down if I can see him. That was the end of it, because that was only been like in the last week or so. It hasn't
Yeah,
been, and again,
that's-
Thanksgiving and all this other stuff in between. So I just said, all right, I'll just wait until today, because it was fast approaching anyway. So the drawing that I supplied, which I think you might have in your hand there, Craig, right? It's a very basic sketch that I just kind of drew up because, again, I deferred to Emmett to simply say, there's no real specific thing, like I want it to be this thing. I just said, whatever you see that makes sense when you're putting this in, just do. There's no like, I need to have it be 3 degrees to the left or.
Well, I went down there this week and looked at the property.
Yeah.
And I saw the 2 iron stakes on each side. I didn't see the one in the middle. I don't know.
I'm sorry, when you mean, what's in
The
iron?
boundary markers.
Oh, okay, yeah, I saw the one on the left-hand side.
Yeah, and I saw the one on the right-hand side.
Yes.
But there's nothing in the middle. I mean, at the moment.
I couldn't find anything, and by the description of the lot, it seemed to be pretty much a square when I saw the aerial of it. So what I ended up doing was, I put a mark on one of the trees there to make sure that we were, because I believe that you were supposed to be 10 feet at least, and we were probably from where I had, again, assuming a 90 degree, because that's what it looked like on both of those pipes, and looking at it straight out, we are within 25 feet from anywhere near the border of the next neighbor.
Yep.
So I made sure that we were well within that.
25 feet. We have a 50. You have to be.
Pillsbury Lake is lesser
Oh, it's
restrictions.
lesser.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you don't have
All right.
2 acres there, you don't.
Yeah.
it's
I'm
just
glad they're
about-
combining the lots because
Yeah.
each one individually is not enough to do anything.
Well, I mean, I don't know why they didn't do that originally, so I just filed the paperwork, because I thought it'd
Right.
just make life a heck of a lot easier.
So when I looked at the property,
Yep.
over in this corner,
Yeah,
right there, right, over in this
The
corner.
culvert corner, sir?
Well,
I don't know,
there's two,
I'm trying to,
there's 2 culverts.
okay.
One doesn't go to your property, it's over here. And the other one does go to your property, and it's,
Over around here, by the 0 of the 80.0?
yeah.
It's around that mark.
Right, that way. Anyway, right close to the boundary of your neighbor on the curve there.
Yep.
Looked to me like the only high and dry spot in that whole lot. I mean, the rest of that was pretty wet.
So, that's interesting that you say that, because when I went where I have this marked,
Yeah.
is when we had walked out that property after it had rained pretty hard for about 2 days,
Yeah.
and that was the driest spot.
Where
Yep.
you've got the driveway.
Yeah, exactly, that was the,
I didn't see that. Are you gonna fill in there?
yeah, that was, the plan was, and again, I was deferring to Emmett, but the idea from what he had said from the road, so there's a couple of things that I'm not really, clearly not expert in. The distance of what this town owns in was, so I think he had mentioned there's a mark from like the center of the road into where the town would actually own land into it, right? So from the Centennial Drive, the hard asphalt in, I think we estimate about 10 feet or something like that in. So it drops down as you remember, Craig, right? It drops in. And so that pitch, when we walked it out to the center area, if you will, from where I'm planning on doing, or want the turnaround,
Yeah.
I think that was about I'm gonna say about maybe 2 feet. We're going up about 2 feet from that area there. We wanted to make sure that we, according to Emmett, he was like, look, if you raise that up over here, that'll be dry, it's just gonna be filled, and then he goes, just wanna make sure that we keep it far enough away from that big tree,
Yeah.
so we don't
Yeah,
kill
there's
it.
a big nice maple in there.
Yeah, that was the one that we wanted to make sure that we don't cover up too much, because it will kill it.
Yeah, so I'm concerned that this is a pretty wet lot, I think. I saw it. And I'm concerned that you're gonna have to fill in here to get,
Oh, no,
to get up to.
that's right.
And so the fill, I believe, is gonna require a DES permit.
I mean, again, I'm deferring to everything when I spoke with Emmett.
Yeah, but
So I don't know that. I mean, I'll
Sounds
agree
like
with
it
you.
if it's wetlands.
that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
It's really wet in there. If you're gonna do any filling in there, as I said, the only dry spot I saw was over in this corner, where you propose the
On the
driveway and everything is all fill in there.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, so this is the lot, right? So the culvert is around here, correct?
The other culprit, yeah.
Well, the only culvert that I'm aware of that's on the
Yeah, yeah,
property.
meaning what you, yeah. 'cause you
Yeah,
said
and so what
okay.
you're referring to is if I look at this where it says 10-53, the physical numbers of that?
Yeah,
So in between where it says 0.58 acres and the 10.5.3, right? Is that the area that you think is the driest? I just want to be able to make sure.
what I saw is over here. This is your neighbor's lot.
That is my neighbor, the
Yeah.
house is up here, right?
Yeah, and there's a wetland that goes, it kind of wanders through here like this. This is a wetland all through here. There's actually a stream, and it goes to a culvert here, which is not on your property. And then over here, closer to your other neighbor, you have another neighbor.
Yeah,
over
yeah,
here.
I met her, very nice, yeah.
There's a culvert that goes under Centennial. It's fairly recent because you can see the surface of the road. It goes somewhere in here.
So where's the one that I can see above ground? Because I see one that's around here that's coming off of, so if this is Centennial, what's the name of the road that's here?
Rumford.
Rumford, yes. So by that, there's a culvert that comes out around the 0 mark here. There's one, you can see it, it's an 18-inch black.
Okay.
That
Or
goes-
maybe I thought it was up here, but you may be right.
Yeah, well, the only one that I can see that's visible is this one here, and it's on this lot.
Well, this, as I said, there's a stream that goes right through this, running water.
So,
And it comes through this culvert, which is on your
yeah,
neighbor's property. It's not on your property. And then this area right here, that's the high and dry spot.
so, I'm gonna respectfully tell you what my memory is of what I saw.
Okay.
So the culvert is coming out, that's on the property, is by this mark over here,
Okay.
right? And the wetland of that streamway that you're pointing out actually goes more like this, and goes almost meanders all the way straight through, and then that goes, because, again, I'm just using logic, the reason why it feeds down this way is because here is Pillsbury Lake. This water comes down this way and feeds right into it.
Right.
So if it goes this way, it's going in the opposite direction of Pillsbury, which would make no sense by the
Well-
way water travels.
Maybe I misdraw this, but it does come, like, here's your black line, it does come out through here, so maybe I withdrew that, but it does. This is right on your property, for
Oh,
sure.
no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree with you 100%. The water comes out of this culvert and it really does follow out this path that's going out this way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come into this area that I'm talking about as far as being dry. This area, to me, this whole area on this side is actually pretty wet.
Yeah.
There was really no high side
The
on.
whole lot's really wet.
Well, I would tell you, I've been out there 2 or 3 different times. Ironically, it's always been post-rain. And so if you're on this side, you're gonna lose a boot because it's wet and mucky throughout here
Right.
because of that
I
stream.
don't disagree with you.
But on this side over here, it's not. I've walked this path through multiple times, going back and forth because I was looking for the markers here to see where they were. And this area is dry. The only little bit of mush is in clearly like low spots, but not even, like if you told me that I could put down, 8 pallets on the ground and just screw them together, they'd all be dry. You're just walking through little ruts that were wet. The right-hand side, you're 100% right. This side is wet, and I'll tell you, it's mostly because it's directly relatable to, if this was a wetland, the only reason why this area is wet is because of that culvert.
I'm not sure, I think that's.
Have you had this perk tested yet for septic system?
I have no interest in putting a septic system in.
What are you gonna do?
So for me, I want to be able to have, for the near term, I don't know what my long-term, sort of plans are. My short-term plan is I don't want to be able to keep my boat, I don't want to keep my extra car or truck on Centennial. So to me, the logical thing was, let me just get this in off the road, put a driveway and a turnaround, and then be able to figure out what's actually viable. I don't want to, because I have no idea if I said, oh, I want to put a truck just because I want to put a 3-bedroom house in there. That's not really my plan, but I don't know. I don't live my life by 10 years down the road. I live my life more like, hey, if I put my stuff off the road over here and then just see what's going to happen, because for right now I want to be able to just keep like kayaks and my mountain bike and things like that there, because I want to enjoy Pillsbury Lake to go fishing and kayaking in. And then there's some really great trails around to just go mountain biking. So as opposed to schlepping everything with me all the time, if I can just keep it there, I was like, why wouldn't I?
Right.
And then down the road, do I think I maybe would want to build a small house or something like that on there? That's certainly possible, but I don't really know enough about the town to be able to commit to the idea of like, hey, I think I really want to put a house here. But so right now it is just a lot that I can have dry stuff on, secure my things over there, put mountain bikes, kayaks, and things of that nature there, and then figure out what I would do next. And then I think the other things that would obviously come into play. I think septic might be difficult, but I'm not there yet, to be quite frank with you.
Is there any other comment?
Do you think you might want to put like a storage, like a garage, a storage building?
So the idea would be is for my understanding of the rules and regs within, and again, I'm very novice at this. I've only had a couple of inquiries when I'd spoken to a woman from the Pillsbury Lake.
Association?
Yeah, and she seemed to be relatively new because I think a lot of people had changed during COVID. So it seems to be that there were rules about what you can do there if you don't have a house. So I did read the bylaws that were saying things like what you can and can't do. So I would say, I don't know. In a dream scenario, would I like to be able to put a storage shed or something like that? Absolutely, because it'd be more locked up. But in the meantime, it's like if I just keep myself off of Centennial, that would be great. And then I would probably go through the process to find out what would be permissible to put a shed or something like that there, so we can lock things up. If you guys told me you knew the answer, if I'm able to do that, I'm open to hearing that. I have no idea. Because it seems to be, there's the Webster and then there's the lakes thing. So I've heard that a couple of times, but I just don't know, where the buck stops and who, he, she, they say yes or no. So I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know enough yet. I just thought this was a pretty simple thing to look for.
Do we have any comments?
Russell, how about you? Do you know if they could put a shed up down there?
So they'd have to get permission from the district. So
Yeah.
the town, not a problem.
Okay,
From the district, you'd have to get a permission from them because that's written into your deed. As
okay,
part of an easement restrictions, you're subject to the rights of the Pillsbury Lake District.
okay,
And part of that is the Building Control Committee grants permission to build any structure in the lake.
okay. So I'd probably go through that.
And I can
My
get you a
guess.
copy of them, I can email you.
That'd be
the rules.
fabulous, yeah. I would be interested in something like that because again, that's a baby step.
I mean, I don't know if it's the most current version of the rules, but that's the rules they gave me.
So Craig, as you were pointing out that you felt, are you trying to say that you felt from what you witnessed, this would be a better logical place to put in?
No, I think,
No?
no, what I'm suggesting is that what his proposal is going to involve fill.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that's DES. He's going to have to get a permit from DES for that fill.
So how do we move forward for him then? Because I don't know.
Probably should get an engineer, right, to make it so it's, because he can't just go in there and dump dirt, if it's wet, you know that, I know that, correct? We can't get away with that.
Or do we even have the right to tell him that he can do that?
Well, it's not it's the purvey of the state, the DES.
Right.
And he has to get the DES will tell him what he can do, what he can't do.
Mm-hmm.
We're not gonna say, all we're gonna say is before you get any kind of driveway or building permit, you need a DES permit. That's kind of where we're at.
Okay.
Is that
Well,
right?
and
Does
that's
that-
only to protect
Yeah,
you
just-
too.
and
That's
it-
not just to
I
protect,
mean,
only because you wouldn't want to get that in there and then somebody show up from DES and
And-
then say to you
Yeah.
gotta remove all that
And the
fill.
thing of it is, if he's gotta put a
Am I wrong?
culvert in, he's gonna have to get a permit for that, right? To put a culvert in for a driveway, he'll have to have that.
From Emmett.
Well, not necessarily from him too, but it's like technically if it's wet, he's gonna need to get one from the state, right? A permit to put that pipe in. You know, if we were building a driveway and
Well,
it's
it's
wet land,
It's
Yeah.
not a, it's not a state road.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm not sure he needs a,
no?
but when you talk to the DES people.
We just don't wanna see you put this in.
No, no,
And have the DES come by and
And
say.
say you're done.
I mean,
No,
not
no, no,
saying that
I-
we want you to fill in wetlands, don't get me wrong,
No,
and
no,
I'm
no, no,
not
but-
disagreeing with you, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't wanna see him go through all the headache of getting
Oh, no,
yourself
no, no,
set
I
up.
agree with that, but I have a question for you. When you all are suggesting, and I'm not, that it's a wetland, right? Is there something within the town right now that says this area, as opposed to it being wet, it's a wetland? Because a wetland is actually a legal definition and a term, versus somebody saying to me, it's wetland. That could be a mucky pile or something, they're saying, well, that's clearly wet, but that doesn't make it a wetland. So my question is,
Well-
within,
Well-
is this recognized as
There-
being a wetland versus it just being, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Does it have all the brush in there? Is there all the brush in that?
It's, yeah,
No.
young trees.
Well, what,
If I cut down all those young trees and all that brush, that's gonna dry up in about a month. It's gonna dry up in about a month. I do
I'm
landscape
not-
design for a living.
I'm not convinced.
No, no, I believe you, but I'm just
But
suggesting that,
what, right now, we don't have a wetland ordinance that applies to this, okay?
right,
All right. The only thing we've got is a driveway permit, right? That applies at the moment. And what we're saying, before we give a driveway permit, you need to go to DES and get a, have them look at it and say it's okay to fill in there.
so if I just understand this, currently, that land is not recognized as being a wetland.
in the town?
That's correct. No, I just want to be clear
Uh-huh.
as to my understanding. So if it's not being deemed
Well,
currently, I just want to make sure, because I like the legalese of things being really specific, because those things are specific. And when somebody says, well, I think that it's wet, that does not in and of itself
Right.
define it to
So
being a
we-
wetland.
For your information, we hired a consulting company to go around town.
Yeah.
And they mapped all the wetlands. They mapped them in two categories, prime wetlands and other, I don't know.
Secondary, ancillary, something like that, okay?
Yeah, and there's a map in the town hall. You can go in
Okay,
and Russ can show you and see if your property is on that.
okay,
We don't have, at the moment, I don't think there's any ordinance that applies to this. In other words,
Well, in the ordinance, it does say if there are wetlands, we will do our best to route any driveway around said wetlands. So that's what it says in the driveway
Okay.
regulations.
so there you go.
So
no,
this-
I understand, but we're still back to the original part, which is, and I guess Russ would be able to know tomorrow, assuming he has the time to look at this, does my property fall within what would be defined from this consultant you had hired, that is actually a wetland? If it doesn't fall into that, then wouldn't this, and again, I don't want to be jerky about this, but isn't this conversation in moot? Because if it wasn't recognized as being a wetland, then what are we trying to avoid if it's not a wetland from a consultant that was hired? Are we just now just simply saying, maybe that's a wetland, maybe that's a wetland, and as opposed to it actually being recognized as a wetland? And if it's not, then I'm sort of confused as to why would I have to go back after a consultant has been here, again, under the idea that it's not been recognized and labeled as a wetland, then why would I have to move further in having to prove that it's not a wetland? That's what I guess I'm confused by, because then it's just more of bureaucracy kicking in for no reason.
I think what you're gonna have to do,
Sure.
to get a permit for the culvert anyway, you're gonna have to get a permit from the state to put in a brand-new culvert. I'm almost positive that, because I went through this when I did a driveway over your neck of the woods, and they made me get a permit to put
Yeah.
that culvert in. So it would seem to me that if you gotta go to get a permit, you're gonna have to, it's like a surveyor would have to draw you up a plan of where that culvert's going, because you gotta put one in, correct, Emmett?
Well, no, so I'm gonna back this up a little bit. I don't mean, and disrespect to what the mindset, but if in fact this piece of land is not recognized as being a wetland, right?
Yep,
Then I should be able to get a driveway and the turnaround put in there, and in all fairness, the culvert becomes moot. It's not a wetland, I don't even need to put the culvert in, because what am I putting in? Because it's not a wetland.
did Emmett say you needed a culvert?
But he suggested that. But again, if we're going by what he said, then I would have already been approved for all of this. So if people are saying now, if he knows the town and goes, yeah, you shouldn't have a problem with this, but now it appears that if somebody's saying this could be a wetland, Russ will know tomorrow, presumably, not right, if this falls within what those consultants said, this is a wetland. If it's not, then if it's not a wetland, I should be able to get a driveway with a turnaround and wouldn't even need to put a culvert in because it's not even a wetland.
So say you go ahead and do all this, right?
Yep,
DES comes in, says, hey, you're done, and you're
Yep.
done. What are you gonna do?
then I'm gonna simply say, there was consultants that went through here and this was not marked as being a wetland.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, that's not how it works.
But
Who's the consultant that did this?
the ones you hired.
Okay, all right, so you're backing that back to us as we're being the consultants?
No.
No,
Okay.
The
GZA
town
was the one who
hired
did this stuff.
GZA Environmental.
Right, but that's only
That would not
for,
come to Webster at all.
that would be for Lake Winnipocket, all your major ones is all they did. They didn't do all the small wetlands,
Did they? Didn't
No.
I don't think they did all
did
the
not.
small ones.
right?
Oh.
They just
Yeah.
did the major
They
wetlands.
just did the major ones, that's right.
Right. Pillsbury Lake, Lake Winnipocket, Blackwater River, all of
Lake
that,
Meadow.
those are the only wetlands that
Well,
company
that,
did.
that
Would-
thing that drains in, it drains into Pillsbury, that is a wetland. Whether this is part of that or not
Yeah.
is up in the air.
So I just don't wanna see them take and put this in, and then DES comes in and say, you're
Right.
done, you got a fine going.
Right.
And,
I'd like to see them run it by DES, that's what I would.
right? What do you think? I mean, I wanna see him do it, it don't
No,
make
I'm
a shit
just-
to me,
I'm
'cause-
just surprised, I'm sort of just surprised by the idea that, again, I mean.
Yeah,
I-
I saw a pretty wet site there. I mean, there's a reason why nobody's built on that site before this.
Well, I mean, I don't know if that's true because the gentleman that was selling this lot, to me, was asking a lot of money. The way that it was being positioned as two separate lots devalues the asset. The idea that there's a culvert, so I think there's I mean, I bought parcels of land like this in the past where, because of what I do for a living, it allows me to be able to look at this and simply say, you know, to divert the water of that culvert that's existing over there is the crux of it, but it stays on the low end side because it feeds directly into Pillsbury Lake. The left-hand side, going up towards the road towards 54, my next door neighbor up that way, that's all dry because the water's flowing to the right, because it's feeding towards Pillsbury. So the reason why I walked it out, I looked at this, I said, yeah, this is a pretty straightforward thing, and I've done this in the past, that if all that brush goes away, 70% of the sunlight's coming through, because it's all just brush. It's all just, but again, you can disagree with me, I'm telling you, I've been doing it for, no, I've been doing it for 21 years. So I'm just telling you that I know that when I cut down all that brush and the sun comes through,
It might be useful for other members of the planning board to take a look at this.
Did Paul and Emmett went out and looked at it?
Yeah, they did.
at different times,
And
though.
they didn't have any suggestion?
Well, Paul, I think said it had to go to DES, is what he said.
He did.
Yeah.
But Emmett felt that it was doable.
Right.
Yeah, it's certainly doable. I mean, you can, but you're gonna have to fill. That's the whole point, is it's wet enough.
Right.
It's wet enough that you're gonna have to fill, and anytime you fill,
So again, I'm not disagreeing with you, but part of the thing was the reason why we wanted to fill was because of the drop-off from Centennial Road into the property. And if you look to the home to the left, they had to have filled at some point because it's much higher, like their home, if you just walked it out, there's no way that this just became a sinkhole. That property to the left-hand side had to have been filled as well, just because it's well above grade for the road, you go straight in. Part of the reason why was because it's like a 30% drop. So the only way to come off of Centennial and come on in, the logic was, unless you're gonna have a really steep driveway, was to fill. And Emmett didn't seem like he was like, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It seemed to
Well,
be.
yeah, I mean, Emmett is a builder, constructor. Fill it, yeah, I can fill it. We can fill it.
Well, we were mindful to be able to know that that large maple that you saw there, that we didn't want to wrap around that because it would kill it.
Yeah,
And so it
but-
didn't seem like it required a tremendous amount of fill, but you're
Well-
right. It definitely requires fill, but I think a lot of it was to mitigate the height.
Any other comments? Do you have anything? You have anything?
Yeah, if you have to get DES involved anytime you fill anything, I don't know the DES rules.
Well, neither do I.
So, yeah, so,
What do you think?
Well,
This
for
is
me,
where I wish-
for me, you know, it happens every day in a sense. But I haven't seen the lot, but
Yeah.
I'm also, I could go either way because I've seen both sides.
Right.
You know, as we're loggers and we, sometimes you get the culvert in, you gotta put some stone in to get in, and then you go to town. And, you know, I personally, I just think that I wouldn't want to see, I don't know enough of that DES rule for this type of situation on not where it's town land and where it's, off, it's somebody's putting in a lot, what if they would have a hard time with it or not? I would feel bad saying, oh yeah, go ahead, go for
I-
it, and
right.
then DS, you get in trouble with DES.
Yes, I don't wanna see you getting any
No,
trouble.
right, but that's,
I would
but,
hold you, again, for all
Yeah.
fairness, I would hold you harmless to that. I mean,
Yeah.
in other words, this is such a small nothing that I just can't even imagine, again, in order to be able to put in this turnaround on the driveway, I gotta go out there and clear a whole bunch of brush, right? And if you guys, and I encourage you to take a look at this, once I clear out that brush, the sun's gonna come pouring through. It's all just scrub brush. I have a video, you wanna see a video of it? I have a video, I took a video of it from that road to show you, not because of this, but I just
no,
had.
no.
Yes,
Yeah,
if
sure.
we could see it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Take it. I could
wish
see
Paul
you
were
rustle
here.
a little bit over
I
there.
wish Paul were here because he's actually been there.
Yeah,
Well, and
that's,
he's been there too. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I'll
it's-
just-
I'm not
And this
deferring that
is
he doesn't know what
the
he's
from
talking
the
about.
angle,
Doesn't sound
just so
right.
you know, this is from the angle up on
Yeah.
Centennial,
There's a lot of
from
water.
where I'd want the opening to be, because there seemed to be an opening. So let me just see. I'm really not great with this thing, so if you're better
Okay.
with the iPhone,
No, not really.
okay. It's all scrub brush. The whole thing is just scrub brush.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it is, yeah. So the culvert was down here, right?
You start another one.
And where's the driveway?
Well,
Right
this
here?
it would be right in here. So this is the beginning of it, so I think I panned from the
Yep,
left.
sorry.
So I'm assuming
Yep.
this is gonna start, hold on. Yeah,
Going this way.
so the opening would be here, right?
where's
And
the
then-
lot, right straight back?
Right, straight back, yes, sir.
So like it would kind of follow this map. Here you
It was
go.
right, exactly
Yeah.
there, yep. And then now here's a road, so you can get a better view, like if I'm now panning,
Mhm.
where the opening was, is right
Right
there.
there.
Because- Right?
Where did he suggest put the culvert in?
Right here, right?
It was gonna be inside on the driveway, so if this is it, someplace along this. He didn't say specifically, he just said you should put a culvert in, because the rain
Oh, here.
comes in
Okay.
this way down the
So
road.
he wasn't worried about coming off Centennial Drive with a culvert?
No.
He wanted it right here?
Exactly, just in case
There's-
water's coming down the road from here, comes in here, we'll just continue down.
Well,
That's my understanding,
Okay.
this is Rumford Drive,
sorry.
That's
It's
what
all
that-
right.
right there.
Yeah.
It goes up. And right here, the water comes down Centennial Drive this way. There's a culvert under the road right
Okay.
here. And it comes right like this.
Oh,
over
okay.
the-
Feeding water there.
Mm.
Right, so if there's the culvert you're referring to, the only one that I saw was one that was here. It was not on this lot, it was on this lot, sir. Rumford's actually here.
It shows it over here.
Well,
Your map shows it here.
No, the Rumford?
And
it's the
this
culvert.
stream,
Yep,
this stream is actually on this neighbor property, and it crosses up somewhere in here. It's running water.
no, I see it, absolutely.
It comes up through here. And there's a culvert under the road over here that feeds into the stream.
So the one that I see in that video, it's far off to the right, the only one that I can see exposed. If there's another one below, I obviously can't see that. But the only one that I can see comes out here. If you walk it out and you take a look at that clearing where I am, again, you can see because I painted on the road here where the expectation would be is. The
Well,
culvert's
how
over
about if we all make an appointment with you and go over it with you?
here. Well, I live over an hour away. I would trust if you all wanted to go out there on your own. I mean, I'm happy to be able to do it. It's just kind of especially during the holidays right now.
Right.
Yeah,
And then
no,
we
it
also-
ain't gonna happen this week.
And then we also don't know Mother Nature, what curveballs she might throw at us, even if we plan it out for the next following week, because
Well-
who would have thought it'd be 60 degrees today?
As long as it wasn't 60 at my house.
It was
It got to
60
40.
down in Massachusetts, it was
Yeah,
60.
I got to like 42.
Oh, well, we got,
So,
But if we go individually, as long as it's right, then we're okay.
And you mark
You can go
where-
Oh, yeah,
individually,
you will
or
see-
you can schedule it as a meeting and I'll go and take minutes. That's not a
I
big deal.
painted on the road where the driveway entrance would be.
oh, you did?
I did, with marking paint.
Okay.
And so you can see that I'm clearly away from the marker, about 25, 30 feet from the next door neighbor. And then I would bet you dollars to donuts from where the right-hand side of my driveway is to the culvert, 35 to 40 feet away it is further down the right-hand side. And I'm talking about the one that's visible. Again, if there's one underground that I'm not aware of, certainly I haven't seen that one. But the only exposed culvert is right there, almost up against where the next door neighbor's right-hand side property is. It's right there. So I would say that it's being fed in on the right-hand side of Rumford Road, and you can see the water.
Let's, there's too many unanswered questions here. I'm inclined to table this and
For a month, yeah.
for a month, give us a chance to look at it, look into DES.
Because we don't meet again till,
and
No,
we
I
can look
understand.
at-
I just
you
wanted to
can-
be, while the weather was nice, I was just hoping that I can just actually get the thing done. That was I'm just telling you what my early Christmas wish was. It was just, because it's just a driveway and a turnaround. I didn't think it was, okay?
And you can look at the wetlands maps and we can determine whether it is officially a wetlands or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty sure that if it was deemed as a legal wetland, that when the deeds
I
or
mean,
things that
well,
were drawn up, it would have
Let me,
shown.
let me ask you a question. Where, and this is a little bit of new ground for me. Where does us as a town liability wise, I mean, I know we want to do the best for the town and the state and blah, 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 but, I mean, where do we have the right, in a sense, to say that he can't?
Well,
That's my,
The
Well,
only
in
thing
the
you-
ordinance, it specifically states we can direct the driveway around the wetland in any chance that it's an occurrence to do it. So if there is a wet area, you can say the driveway can't go through the wet area, but you can do it around the wet area. That's what's in the current driveway regulations.
So, can I ask you a quick question? Based upon that, if I'm only going in ostensibly into the middle, right? Wouldn't and I just want to be clear because I don't understand exactly what you meant. Wouldn't the water then just go around it if it were a wetland? So in other words, to your point of going around it, I wouldn't be blocking it.
That-
That's what the ordinance says.
Okay.
I'm not an attorney, I don't,
Right.
I'm
So
not a
the
wetland scientist,
so the-
that's what the
You're not?
ordinance says.
The other thing you should be aware of, that even though your property is not officially part of one of the major defined wetlands in town, okay? There are definitions of what defines a wetland.
That's
In the-
true.
In the state regs.
In every state regs, that's
Yeah,
true.
That's right.
That's right.
So you want to make sure that, you know, how you relate to those regs.
and that liability would fall onto him, not us as the town, right?
Well,
So
that's.
if we were to,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm being devil's advocate, I get there's cautiousness here, but devil's advocate says to me that, you know, as long as there's not a more least resistance of approach. And that's why I asked you that question before. Is there a little, you know, could you come in from over here and it would be a little less, you know,
And like I said,
but
yes.
that's my question, because you have visited and I understand, you know, I know you know what you feel is wet and not. Do you find there's another place on his lot that's less resistance? Is this the best path? Best
it's-
path of less resistance right there?
Probably is, but it's gonna require fill. It's
Okay.
not a slam dunk.
So my vote would be, because of the way the regs read and the way things are set up, and correct me if I'm wrong, the only way that we as a planning board could deny him from putting this driveway in, would be if there was another path of least resistance. Otherwise, we don't have any right to tell him he can't do it.
Oh, we don't have any right to tell him that he can't do that, but, and that's all well and good, but if he starts filling that, gets in trouble.
There again,
Again,
that would become his issue, not ours. I'm
Yeah,
trying to,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
no,
trying
no,
not to.
no, I get it, I get it, yeah. We
You know,
just
I
wanna
would
go
believe
do
Craig
it.
if he said to me, well, I looked at that and if he went in this way, and I might say to you, hey, what do you think? Can we come to agreement to go in this way?
Because I went with Emmett, and he goes, this is the most logical spot. I didn't pick it. I said, he goes, this would be the most logical.
Well, and Craig says it, and I get where you're coming from, nobody wants to see, but I don't believe we have a right to tell him that he can't, because there is not a less
There's
path
an alternative.
An alternative.
Well,
So that's
What-
why I would vote to let the gentleman move forward, but.
okay, well, what my feeling is that we should defer this for a month. Get a chance to look at it, maybe you can go out and take a look at it, and, we can come back and see what.
But what would
Paul-
that,
maybe
what would
Paul-
that do? What would that do? In other words,
Well,
if
we want-
if the logic is that there
You're
is.
saying it's a dry site, and I'm saying it's a wet site.
So,
But
so,
I don't know that that's our, I don't believe that that's our right. Correct me, for us
to tell him what.
to tell them what to
right,
do,
right.
that's right. I mean, tell them what to do in the sense that we need to take the least path of resistance, and it sounds like to me from what you saw, what Emmett saw, that's it. And to me, that's more direct. You know, you're gonna do a lot less harm to
Damage, yeah.
to the rest of the property, so I guess I don't see the need in deferring him for a month because of that.
Okay.
So Paul has already looked at it and he's all cool with it?
He was the one who suggested bringing it to the whole board.
Yeah.
Paul was.
Paul was.
What about Emmett?
I don't think Emmett had an opinion on it.
Well,
Emmett said he was, when do you want me to do it?
Yeah, so he's looking for the job.
Well, not really, because I had already had priced it out with a different gentleman.
I just-
No, but he was just like, he didn't see any issue with this
Yeah.
whatsoever.
and we depend on him as a town
Oh, yeah,
to
no,
give
no,
us.
I'm okay.
I know he gives a lot of people
Yeah.
different driveway permits or not permits, and he's shut things down before because it's not correct, so
Yeah.
I have no reason except that I'm not disagreeing with you, that
Yeah.
it's a wet lot, but I guess kind of knowing how our policy is written.
Right.
Tabling it for a month, in my mind, isn't gonna get us anywhere.
Have any thoughts?
I don't know. I'll be honest, part of me says we would not, it's not gonna come back and bite us.
Mhm.
It would come back and bite you.
Right.
I'm with that. It's your nickel.
It's all right.
I would, just to put things in context, if I really felt like something had my neck on the line, I'm not that much of a gambler. This to me is not really, this is not a gamble by any stretch whatsoever. I don't see whether it'd be any issue, and certainly, again, my opinion, having done this for so many years, is once I get rid of all that low-lying brush and the sun comes through.
Well, you know, there's another aspect to this,
Sure.
and that's that we're looking out to the future, okay? You may not want to put a house in here, you may just want to put a thing, but you're going to sell that lot someday. You're going to die and it's going to go to somebody else, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
You know, we've all seen that.
I mean,
I
unless you
don't
find the
wish-
way
I don't
around
wish you
dying, I would
anything-
say we're all fall victim to that eventually. Yes, I would agree to that.
I don't wish you anything bad.
I know, but I'm
But,
pretty sure
you
death
know-
is on my horizon line, sir.
Yeah, yeah, same here.
Yeah.
So somebody else is gonna get that lot and they're gonna say, oh, that's a great spot for a house.
Okay.
And then they gotta say, oh, oh, but we can't put a septic in or whatever. Oh, we don't have this, blah, blah, blah. So it creates a problem for the future owners and it creates a problem for the town too.
I don't know, that people need to do their due diligence.
Yeah. that's true.
But I mean,
I don't.
so is the idea that you would feel that it is better that the previous owner has owned this for 30 years, has done nothing to it, and that in its current state, that's actually would be better off? Because I'm trying to be able to do something, so I'd rather find that if someone down the road were going to be looking to put a septic in, I would consider that to be more of an advancement than having the person who owned it did nothing with it for 30 years. I would disagree with you. Then my opinion would be is I think mine's more forward progress than what that gentleman did.
Okay.
Because if I had owned this land all these many years, I would have fought a little bit more as to the location of that culvert, because it feeds directly into my property and therefore makes us so much more wet that I think that I would have said to the town, if you're going to put this culvert over here, do me a favor, just dig out a little bit more of a trench over here to make it actually a little bit more of a contiguous waterway, to actually just have the water continue going there versus just sitting there and standing, which is what it's doing because it's around these little roots and trees. That they just dug a straight path directed into that water, in that riverway that you pointed out, it would just continue going. Right now, it's just sitting there, and just that's what makes it wet. Nobody decided to just put a little backhoe in there, go 60 feet, and the water would have just gone straight down the Pillsbury Lake. All they did was put a hole in there, put an 8-inch pipe, and said, here you go, and the water just poured into this guy's property and made it into wet, unbuildable land. But if the town simply said to me, I want to do this, I'm like, no, just straighten this out and have it feed directly into this, and all that land would be dry. Because I do this for a living, and I'll tell you right now, that's what people do with their property. They just simply don't say, hey, just have the water just dump into my property 24/7. Nobody would do that. He didn't argue for his land. He should have argued for his land, because you would have.
Do you have any final thoughts?
The more he talks, the wetter it sounds. That's how it sounds.
But there again, I don't think that we.
Right.
We can't stop it.
That's right.
Was it sold as a buildable lot? I'm just curious.
It was not sold as so it was a couple little errors that were on there that I had to remedy. The original thing said that it actually had a building structure on it. So I had to make that change on there, but the deed was for 30 years or whatever it were, stated that there was an existing property and that property there was actually used as the main residence or a main home. And I was like, that's wholly incorrect.
Wow.
There was no property there and this is not a main residence. So I made them change that.
That's right, it's not a main residence. I didn't go look in the archives.
Yeah, but those changes I had to make because,
There's no lot on the property, there's no buildings on the property.
right, so I had to make that change because it said on the thing that I was signing off, it's saying, this is gonna be your main domicile. I was like, no, there is no domicile there is nothing there. So I had to make that change. Everything else is really based upon just the fact that you have to deal with two towns, two governing
entities.
bodies to be able to just figure out what can and can't be done there. And they did point out that there was a culvert there, but it was not defined, and again, usually the realtors would go through it if it were legally defined as a wetland, it would be sold as that, which would then be unsellable. It's land that is wet, but is
You
not a
wanna make a
wetland.
I make a motion to accept this her proposal, this driveway
To
permit.
approve the permit?
Approve the permit. Thank you for the words.
Any discussion?
No, I'd say that if we approve it, is fine, but if he's in trouble, it doesn't come back on anything that we've done. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's gonna have to get a permit for that culvert. That's how that works. You know, you don't just go in and put a culvert in if there's a body of water there. because you will be in trouble because we'll be driving by.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Any comment or not? It's done. All right, let's take a vote on, well, I guess we
Nobody
have to
seconded
second
the
it.
motion.
Second, do we have a second for,
I second. Well, no, I made the motion. I can't second. Jeez, I'm gonna be fired already.
You're in the logging business?
Mm.
Is that what you said?
Mhm.
Oh, I just never really met a woman, no.
Well, me, well, yeah, and so wasn't he.
Guys like him I've met.
Yeah.
Women in the logging business, I've usually not, you're very rare to have
She's
met.
the queen.
Jeez.
Don't forget
They
it.
call the queen logger.
She is it.
Yeah.
She's probably one of the only women in the state.
And can you
And
fell
she
trees?
rules the roost.
Oh, well, I was gonna ask if she could fell a tree.
No,
or
I'm just good at telling people what to do.
She can do it.
Well, she just said she can. So,
But we have
You
big
don't know
machines that can.
that's true, bigger than a Husqvarna chainsaw, I was gonna say.
all right, do we have a second on this one?
I'll second it, because I think if Emmett has looked at this and he thinks that this is doable without issues, he's probably all good. And that's the reason I'm being. I mean, I wish he was
Yeah.
here.
Mhm.
And.
But same here.
But I believe that if there's gonna be a culvert put in, better have a permit. That's
Well,
what
I'm gonna
no,
get-
that's what I'm telling you. You better have a permit.
All right, so.
Because you'll need it before you're done.
Well,
So
I'm
let's take
thinking,
a, let's, excuse me.
Sorry.
Let's take a vote here. I'm gonna vote against this because I think it's a wet site and needs a DES approval for fill. But that's my opinion. So let's take a vote. All in favor, raise your hand. 2 against, all opposed.
I haven't,
So
I
we-
can't make up my
you're
mind.
Abstaining?
Can I
But can
abstain?
You
I,
can abstain.
I'm going to abstain, because I honestly don't know. I'm gonna drive down and look at it, but
but we can't, there's nothing we can do at this point to
I
stop
know.
him. That's why,
Yeah.
holding people up to me, I mean, hey, if there was something that magically was going to appear or that you saw that we couldn't see in the video, or Emmett missed. So,
Yeah, no, I respect Emmett's opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going with.
That's what I'm gonna go with.
Plus I saw, yeah.
And- But he needs to have it done. It's not just throw it in and get away without a culvert permit. That's not gonna happen.
Well,
You can guarantee that.
well,
But
Because I have to get him. You're gonna have to get him.
We've let him know, but we're
You let them
gonna,
know.
yeah, he's a big boy.
That's it.
So did that pass or not?
So that would make it a pass because if she abstained, it
2-1.
would be 2-1.
Okay, so that passed. You got your
okay,
driveway.
I have a question for you, because I think you have a good sense of humor. I'm gonna double check now with Emmett, based upon that, whether or not I actually need the culvert.
That's fine.
No, because if.
I know you need it when you put a new pipe in, that you gotta have a permit.
No, I know, but now I'm second guessing the idea of whether or not I needed it, because that's just the materials alone for what you all do, like me.
Yeah, we know.
That material cost is scandalous.
Mhm.
That culvert price for 20 feet, it was 20 feet.
Yep.
$700.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And
That-
you haven't picked it up yet.
Now, 2 years ago, that would have been $175.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah.
No, I deal with materials all the
Yeah.
time, and it's just scandalous in what you're paying for, and then what you have now paid for labor is incredible. I don't know what you guys pay, but my rate for paying my guys, cheapest guys are $30 an hour. Cheapest guys are just carry bags of cement for me. And I'm like, I can't, otherwise it won't show up. Okay, so what else? So the other thing I was gonna ask you is the permit of consolidating those two. You wanted to mention that here.
Well, yeah, that's just
yeah, I
that
saw
is just a mention that it's gonna happen.
Oh, okay, that's just a formality. I
It's
don't.
just a formality that automatically goes through.
Okay, just wanted to
I
make sure
just
that.
mention it to them, and then I record it. I'll be recording it, probably sending it to the registry on Monday.
No worries at all.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Consolidating them is.
And plus, they already know about it from seeing the maps.
Yep,
And then,
That's why I included it with the permit.
and then on the other side of the road, on the Centennial side that abuts Rumford, that whole corner area there, There's some properties that you and I had discussed.
Yep.
If those things ever become for sale, let me know, I'll buy them.
So
Why?
there are a couple town
I
owned
have
properties.
no idea why.
You're gonna corner the market in Pillsbury.
God bless you.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I do know is that the family on the other side of it, I wouldn't borrow a cup of sugar from those guys. They scare the bejesus out of me, and I just drove by it. I'm like,
I think I'm.
I don't know who they were, but I drove by. I was like, no, not my cup of tea. So if I don't hear from you all, have a great Christmas.
You
Appreciate
too.
your time and effort.
You too.
And then I will speak with Emmett, I guess. So when is it okay if I contacted Emmett, for example, will say, hey, let's do this?
So Emmett's gonna have to come by in the office, sign the permit, and I will discuss it with Paul, and then have Paul come by and sign the permit once I get the minutes done.
Okay.
So we can see the motion.
So it'll be like the next few days or whatever it may
It'll
be.
probably happen next week, somewhere at
Next
some
week is
point.
what, Christmas, right? Next week is.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep, Friday
Alrighty.
is Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Good, because once it's here, then it's over, then it's done.
One more after that.
Oh, God.
All right,
Right, well,
everybody.
that's a
Well,
fun one.
Yeah.
appreciate your time. Have a great Christmas.
You too.
All
Yeah,
right,
thank
thanks,
you.
everybody.
And the next one should be a pretty easy one too.
This is just doing the,
Just doing the motion again, because people were confused with what was said at the meeting, and when I did the minutes, it was also not clear. So to avoid confusion,
So, I want to make, I want to say something for the record
Yeah.
on the motion of the wetlands ordinance.
okay.
So, as I've put a lot of thought into, kind of stepping into this a little bit
Right.
on the backside, I definitely want to say that I believe that there was a lot of time and effort, and that's very much appreciated to put these ordinance together. But as a voting member of the planning board, I in good conscience can't vote for the new wetlands ordinance. So I made some notes just so I wouldn't,
Yeah. go ahead.
forget what I wanted to say, but I already said that I appreciate all the time and effort, and golly, don't I? I get that they spent a lot of time putting this together, but I do feel like it's an overreach of government. And I think what it causes, the idea that somebody could, a lot of people are already grandfathered, which is, that's great and that's lovely. But for new residents coming to our town, and the fact that they may purchase a piece of property, and that, they got to hire a wetland scientist because of these new ordinance, when DES, which we spoke about tonight, already has rules and regulations on the state already in place. So, as a voting member of the planning board, I would like to say that I would vote to not have any new wetlands ordinance. Let the state DES be the ones to implement the rules and the regulations. When you start hiring wetland scientists, it's very expensive, so to me, it creates a burden on new residents of the town. And I feel that DES has very good rules in place that protect our water and our property.
So what do you want to do? You want to go wetlands ordinance with DES
Mm-hmm.
is the rule.
The rules and the regulations, which
And
they would
not-
have to follow anyways.
So it's simple.
I wanted that to be a motion,
Yeah.
and to make sure that
Well,
it's
yeah,
documented.
I think what I want to do tonight is, as Russ was saying, the motion that was made last time was somewhat ambiguous. There was some question about whether we were voting on the changes or the changes plus the ordinance. So I wanted to clarify that, what we're voting on, and then vote on the ordinance.
Okay, fair enough.
So we're gonna do the changes, and then we're gonna vote on the ordinance itself?
Yes. Is that?
So there's a few more in there that I
oh
mean.
no.
Well, no, when I got thinking about
I
all
feel
this,
your feelings.
there was definitely some more stuff in there that I did not dig. That I thought that it's gonna be biting us in the end. And then, so like, the DES rules that are already in place for wetlands, is there a lot of paperwork with that sort of stuff as far as what, that's what you wanna see is for the town wetlands to go with the DES rules
Like they've been following
for years?
for years, yep.
And so that would pretty much, that would cover every single thing that's, we've done.
No,
Okay, so now we're getting back to the, what was it, the Gaza book? Is that what, this is what, how,
well.
where this is coming from, the levels of wetlands?
Yeah, the levels of wetlands and what you can do in those are more restrictive than,
DES
DES
rules.
rules.
Okay, so I follow where she's coming from, and so we're gonna be limited more under these level 1 and
Yes.
level 2,
yes, that's right.
instead of DES. DES would be not quite so
Yeah,
hard on us.
yeah, exactly.
And whenever you hire, just like we're talking tonight about what something's wet and not. Now granted, I know there's soils. I use an example of, we're working down in Peterborough right now, and the layer of and you're gonna understand even a little bit better than me, but it goes from loamy to sand to clay to the kind of clay that doesn't drain any water. Okay? But that's amongst, because we're pulling stumps and, trying to make the guy a field, right? Make it agricultural. And the water just sits there, okay? So is that affecting somebody's wetlands in a sense? I'm just trying to say soils can sometimes change.
Yeah.
You don't always know what's below it. So that could go the other way, do you know what I mean? Where it's good draining, it might not look as good from the top to the bottom. But there's a lot of science, there's a lot of guessing. If you ask me, there's quite a bit of guessing at times. He does make a good point, you know as well as I do, when you dry out a lot and let the sunlight in, it's not as wet as it was before. So those are I feel like the amount of time that DES has been around and has actually gotten a lot more stringent. That's why when you drive down, go on a lake now, you don't see a house on the shore like my mom was fortunate enough to do, or I know other people that are even sit on the Concom, get to live right on the lake. The rules have already now made it that much more stringent to begin with. And now we're, to me, reaching out and trying to do it more. And that's
Well,
why. But
Let me just give you an example of, for example, Lake Winnipocket is level 1
Mhm.
body. And the idea is that you don't want these less than one of these small lots with small homes and not enough space for septic systems. So it's, we're requiring a setback from the lake. We're requiring, they're trying to get a handle on that. So we don't have, somebody owns a big chunk of land on Lake Winnipocket, can say, oh yeah, we're gonna divide this up into 2-acre lots, or 1.5-acre lots. Or, we're living with the decisions that were made with Pillsbury Lake in the 60s, right? And that's been sort of problematic for the town. So what we're trying to avoid is more issues that come along with all of that development.
yeah, but there again, yeah, I don't feel good about the fact that I got what I want. And now I'm gonna make it more stringent, so you can't have
get
it.
what they have.
Right,
Right.
and I
Just-
I don't feel that's the American way, and I don't feel that's the,
Well,
but I'm not disagreeing that I get where you're coming from.
Right.
It just, you're leaving, once these things go through, we're leaving it in hands where at least DES has people on their,
right.
that are educated and
That's
all that, I feel that sometimes maybe I'm just educated to be dangerous. You
Well,
know what I mean? But so you could get somebody that's way one way or way the other way, and that's why I feel like now you're creating,
Well, I
to not be a
respect
free
your
country.
opinion.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in town that feel the same way you
Yep.
do.
Okay, fair enough.
Um, I, you know, I haven't lived in Webster nearly as long as you folks have.
Right.
And-
I get that too. It's all cool.
And, you know, I've seen rampant development. I've seen what that can do, what the problems that brings. And the less, and it's going to come to Webster.
Mhm.
You know, it will. There is going to be somebody come in and do another big subdivision. There's going to be.
We don't make it that easy.
Apartment.
Well, actually, I mean, my property was gonna be a big development. The only reason it wasn't was the market tanked. And then the partnership fell apart and,
Right.
It will happen.
It will happen.
But people need a place to live,
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I have kids, well.
I
anyways.
agree.
That's
but-
kind of, sorry, the purpose of the planning board is that you know what's gonna happen.
And so you wanna do it
Shape
carefully.
it in the way,
Right, but see, I feel like we're shaping it to be more,
right.
cost, right, so I said it in my
Yeah,
thing. I feel like we're shaping it to be costly and we're trying to tell people
But
what to do
this-
with their property.
This motion doesn't approve the ordinance.
Okay.
This just allows the voters to vote on it. That's,
Well, no, I understand that, but I wanted to make sure that it's on record that, as kind of coming in a little bit on the backside, that I am not in favor of them, of
Yeah.
the wetland. That's, I
Well,
want to make
yeah,
sure that's
separate
clear.
I think, yeah, I
Okay,
think.
Take
so
out
let's
the
do all
amendment.
that stuff, so go ahead.
Yeah,
I've said my
I'm gonna
piece.
go with what Russ is
Fine.
saying.
Send
What
it.
we're voting on is not the ordinance, we're voting to approve it to send to the town.
Perfect, I got it.
And
Yep.
then the town folks get to decide
Mhm.
what
Fair enough.
they want, yes,
Okay, but can we change some things in this?
yeah.
Yeah, no, there's some things I think need to be addressed. If this goes to the town,
He's
but
taking on
if
the
it
table.
goes to the town, I think there's some things that, you gotta give him the benefit of the doubt. Just like this guy, okay? So if he does some regrading or whatnot, I mean, we already gave him basically the permit, but just say if that's, was a different situation on Pillsbury Lake, we can't really stop them to do what they're doing, but there's some things like, the grading of the land here, no permits. Well, maybe we should give them, I mean, we can make that decision, but we ought to be able to be entitled to make it.
well, didn't you add as part of it, sorry, I shouldn't be interrupting.
No,
this
no,
one.
no,
Matt, no,
you just speak
you
your
gotta-
piece.
yeah.
But on the last part of it, it says may waive the requirements of the CUP application and the permit. So that means if somebody came in, they would draft the permit, and then the planning board could say, oh, this is in the spirit of the ordinance, we understand, we're just gonna waive the permit.
Right, but some of it's no permit,
Not permitted, yeah.
at all. I mean, they can't get a permit, so at least the cup, you got an option, okay? If it's in here, you got an option. If you just have the no
Right.
permit, you got zero options, it's not permitted, right?
That's right.
So I would like to see at least the grading of the land definitely with the cup, and then this here, the change of the flow of the water, same thing. And that way we have at least an option on that. Scrap, this right here.
Yeah,
Take that
yeah.
out, period.
Yeah,
I want that out of there.
yep. I think we agree.
And then, there was something else that I saw that needed to be,
Yes.
done away with, like, I don't know what.
Page 8, my
The
waiver
waivers, right.
requirements of the cup application.
Yeah. Yeah, so get rid of that part of it, take and do that. But I thought I had one other thing that was bugging me, that I
On
saw.
page 3, draining, dredging, filling.
Yeah, well, that was on the buffers of the 2-acre lots in size, I mean, that's only 400 by 400, 2 acres. 50 feet,
That's 400
seems,
by 800.
what's that?
1 acre is,
Yeah, an acre's
It's-
200 by 200. acre,
Well,
1
that
acre.
matches our current
Okay,
ordinance,
all
because we
right,
already have a
okay,
50-foot setback.
So like, the buffer's on the edge of a wetlands, I mean 50 feet, that's from here to there. Away, it seems to me like that's plenty far enough for a buffer. 25 feet would be, you know, halfway, that's still a pretty good buffer from whatever you were doing, like say the edge of your septic to the wetlands. It just
Yeah.
seems like that
And I'm
50
just
feet is quite a bit.
wondering if that would be a substantive change.
Yeah, that's what I'm
That's too
thinking.
big a
that would-
change.
Okay, well, that's what I'd like to see
can't-
It
happen.
was just the way he said, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like.
I know what people are
we're-
after,
well,
but
we're-
it's your, I get it,
This is no longer an
conservation.
open hearing, and that's my worry,
Yeah,
that we can't be
yeah,
changing a lot of stuff
Yeah,
from when we had the open hearing.
yeah,
I
that's,
think that's a bait and switch, isn't that what it's called?
Right.
yes. I'm with you on that.
I mean,
I'm sorry, but,
we've got these changes that were discussed at the open hearing.
Okay, but we need to do the grading of the land too. That needs to kind of follow with the flow of the water. And they need to have an option there. That's
okay,
gotta be.
well, let's, do you know what he's talking about here?
I don't have, I
Right
looked through
here.
my papers, I thought I
Right
had
here.
it.
Just the one up on the top one, where it's got the
I
regrade
thought we were-
contour. Yeah, I think that needs to be able to have an option instead of not
I mean,
Time
permitted.
into things.
Well, it
Is-
is, I mean,
The question is, can we
I
change
get where
them
you're coming from, but also.
at this point?
Can we?
well, I get where you're coming from.
I would have to ask legal on that one, whether that would be a substantive change or not.
Okay.
I'm not sure, and I'm not,
Right, so will you be able to find that out then?
we would have to wait to vote on it to the next meeting.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what the time frame looks like.
Because that's January, and it has to,
Yeah,
The
we,
fifth Tuesday before town meeting has to be ready.
Wow, that's not very far, is it?
Yeah.
No.
God.
I think,
And we can amend it later, if that is
oh, God.
something after.
I know what, I mean, I know they're all worried about this, but it's like none of us are hurting anything here. That's my
Well,
point.
when's town meeting?
With, you know,
Town meeting,
This
I think
thing-
it's in March, right?
yeah, this thing has, we've given everybody pretty much what they want on this thing. I mean, people have come in with some really good suggestions, and we've looked at it, we've clarified it. I can't think of, I mean, there are things in here that I don't like, okay?
Right.
And
Well,
there are
there's a
things
lot
in
of
there,
it.
I'm sure, any one of us could,
Yeah, yeah, I'm not gonna vote for it, so it doesn't matter.
well, all I hope is that.
Oh,
you-
there'll be
you
signs
vote-
all over town, don't you worry.
I hope that
Big
you
ones.
vote to approve it to the town. That's what
In
I,
other
That's
words, so
the
that
one.
it can go to the town meeting.
it can go to the
Because
town.
if we don't
If we don't pass it, it doesn't go to the town.
at all,
And I think that would be a tragedy.
Why?
the town deserves the right to vote on it.
Yeah.
Well,
And they can't if we don't pass it on to the town.
I get, and I appreciate where you're coming
Well,
from, but
that's not entirely true.
Oh, yeah?
but- Because the select board can make a petition warrant to amend the zoning ordinance, and 25 citizens can sign off on it and get it on there.
Oh, okay.
so it's gonna go one way or the other, pretty much.
I don't know.
I think what Craig's saying is he's ready to move on. He feels it's in good,
Yeah.
and it's good place.
I'd just like to see
Me, personally, I don't see the need for it. I don't know that everybody would understand it
Yeah.
as much as that. I'm not saying even it takes me a lot, and I have to
Yeah.
deal with like this stuff.
Yeah.
So that makes me nervous, because
Yeah, it's a
what
daily
happens is
thing.
when I get what you're saying, but you gotta really know how to wrap your arms around this. So people might not even know how it affects them. Now, you would say, well, why don't they figure that out? Well, because it takes time to do and an effort, and they probably think, well, that won't affect me. Where I'm concerned and why I ran and why I'm here is,
Kids?
yeah, I believe this town is a great town. I want it to be affordable to live in. When you start, in my mind, my opinion, you start passing these kind of ordinance and people not totally knowing what that's gonna do to their property, even though some people are grandfathered, it creates an overreach of government in my mind. And I think it makes it not affordable to live here. And I just think the consequences come down the road. Like Craig's saying, he's saying it from even a different point of view, and consequences that, we might have a development come in town or whatever, but hey, I was fortunate to have a place to live, you know what I mean, and purchase. I just feel that doesn't make it, a free country, and I don't think it makes, I'm not against a town growing.
Oh,
So-
I'm not either.
Well, it just some of the, and I want clean water and all that, but there again, DES is pretty stringent in a lot of their rules. That's the reason you don't see houses on lakes anymore. They're set back. My mom's fortunate, she lives on Winnapocket, and she can spit to the lake. You know what I mean? But to me, it should be more of a, we have rules already in place, and then you're gonna have a governing body that may not be us, could be somebody else that may not even understand what they're endorsing. So that's my 2 cents.
Could be a conservation commission.
So, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
And I move to accept the November 18th, 2021 version of the Wetlands Watershed Ordinance with the following minor changes. The language on page 3 to be changed to draining, dredging, filling, which changes the flow of water. To strike the contradictory sentence on page 4 that states no CUPs issued for 100-foot buffers in District 1, and to change the language on page 8 to be my
May waive.
waive requirements of the CUP application permit. This is the ordinance that was voted
That
on
will be.
this ordinance to be voted on
Yes.
at the 2022 town meeting.
Second.
So, thank you.
Gotta move it.
And
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question? Just so I know how I'm voting. If I vote against that, that's my right to do.
Yep.
It doesn't change anything necessarily, it doesn't throw it out, but and it's not that I don't accept the changes, at least they're going in the direction that, the way DS is written now, but I want to vote that I don't want the ordinance at all. Do I have to go one way or the other?
You can vote either way if you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, but all we're voting on is to put it to the town. That's what we're voting on right now.
So no cups issued on page 4?
So that's the one where you said,
Right.
where you
I
changed
see
it so
that
that
right
you
here.
could do
yeah.
it, and then there was a cautionary section that said you couldn't do it. So we
So,
amended one thing without removing it.
So it's basically, we do, CUP is possible.
Is possible in the 100-foot buffer in District 1 for driveways. Because that's something you had changed at the previous hearing. Just the language didn't get removed.
Look at this. I printed this out big time.
So we're gonna put cups here, right? That's what I'm understanding,
Well, there's only one cup.
just in level 1, but we're not gonna
Changing
do it
flow of
in,
water, we changed that one.
Right.
Level
right here.
right here, yes.
But you're not gonna put a cup here. In
Okay.
level 2.
I can't figure out why I don't have my version.
Well, because I left mine in my bag that I didn't slush back from work like I was supposed to.
So
That
can
was-
we change that in level 2 too, so
Well-
they're the same?
If
We
Well-
rewrite that, so
no, let me put it this way.
you don't wanna change it.
I don't want to change it. I mean, if you were the big supporter of this thing, and we're gonna vote for it, I'd make that change. But since you're not gonna vote for it, what the hell difference does it make?
Well, I just think it should be, we should have those Those two things really, in
Well,
my mind,
I agree with you.
I
agree with
think
you on
that we
but-
should be able to
but-
take and have that option. Cause
Well-
that's not gonna be fair.
What do you think, Russ? Can we vote on this or not?
So I don't know if that would count as a substantive change.
I think it would. I mean, because,
I think it needs to be, so at least somebody has that option. Cause it's all possible and not affect anything. You know, it might be for the better, is what, I guess that's what my thing is when I got really looking at that, it could
Yeah,
possibly work
I don't,
out for the
I don't have
better.
a problem with it being a CUP, I just don't know if we can change it at this point.
yeah, I'm with you on that.
So can we make a motion for Russ to look into changing it?
You mean if?
Meaning not you changing it, but looking into it, can we put it, can that be changed?
Well, we'd still have to vote on it before so I might have to schedule a work session to do the vote again. But, because I have to contact the town attorney to ask that question.
As I said, I'll repeat myself. There are things in here that I don't like, and there are things that you don't like, and that you don't like. And I think we're done making changes.
But now we vote on if we accept it to go to the town.
Right.
Right. And if that vote was to, if we were to vote again, if I was to vote against it, let's just say, then what happens?
Well,
Does it?
I mean, it depends on the majority.
Right.
If a majority of us.
I'm gonna abstain. I really do.
No, but listen,
I
Addie, listen to what he's saying. I believe I am understanding this correctly. And there again, there may not be the votes here, but if we were to vote it, that it wasn't ready to go to the town meeting, okay, right? If I vote against it, let's just say you did, just say you did. I'm not saying you're going to. What happens to it next?
So if you didn't want it to go to town.
That's right.
meeting, So you got options, you could fix it to the point where you wanted to bring it to a different town meeting,
Another
table
year
it
away.
completely. That's up to the board. I mean, you can,
But it could, just if it was, it could possibly at this point, unfortunately, all the hard work, I feel it could
well, and then
sustain it
there's, the
from this.
25 people could go to a different edition and put that one forward to go on the ballot.
Okay, so that's a possibility that 25 people could change everything and make it
They can make it to go to the vote
to
What's
what they
what's
want it
written
to
now?
say.
for what they wanted to
What they want it to say.
say. Right.
So they
How about
could
if they just
change.
don't want it to say anything? Can 25 people do that if they wanted to throw it out?
Well, you get to vote on it.
It gets to vote.
I mean, right
I'm
now,
just trying
if
to
you
make
want to
sure I
throw it,
understand.
yeah, no, if you want to
I
throw
mean,
it
I'm new to
out,
this too, and I'm reading
Yeah.
this from the planning board book.
if you want to throw it out, your vote no now you would vote no.
Okay, got it.
Because then it wouldn't, if you're in the majority, then it wouldn't go to the
Right,
town.
that would be
vote.
if I was in the majority, but, okay, got it. So if I vote, if there was
I
enough
worried
majority,
about what
no.
we can do, and
Right,
the other people worry about what they can do.
yep, got it.
So there's a motion on the table here.
Didn't you second?
Yep,
No, it was seconded.
So
I don't like it.
I say nay.
I'm in favor. 2 in favor. If you want to
and you're
vote
gonna
for, against,
abstain
abstain.
and,
I'm gonna abstain because
Abstain.
there's some stuff that I would this right here, the not permitted is like that's not giving anybody any options to
What
do what they need if they could possibly. There's no option there. There's not permitted, so it's like end of discussion. At least if there was a cup, you could take and have an option to look at
Well, once
the
again,
different
if it
ways.
passes, and you're on the planning board, we could do that as amendment the next year to get that put in as an amendment.
So you could
It
get,
has to go to the town meeting again to go through the amendment process, to amend it.
But if he was yay, it would go forward. If he nays, then it would be a tie in a sense to.
Right,
That
and
would,
we
it
would
would then,
probably have to wait to the next planning board meeting to vote again.
right.
and can we change it then?
So, once again, we're getting closer and closer to the.
Yeah, I don't care
deadline.
about the time thing. Can we change that? At the next planning board meeting, could we possibly change that if I say no way? At the next
I
meeting?
mean, I can, if the board wants me to, reach out to the town attorney and ask them if that would count as a substantial.
Is that okay? I know you have a lot of time in this, but I just, I mean, you're taking away the rights
It
of
gets
the
you going,
rights.
doesn't it?
Mhm.
Really, I got grandkids, 6 of them. And I'm just thinking down the road, when it comes time for them kids, I know 3 of them will stay in town, and it's that possibility of not permitted
Mhm.
will not really go over too well. And I own a lot of land, and I just, if, depending upon where kids wanna go, I got on the end of Lake Winnipocket, 40-something acres. And it's Knights Meadow Marsh. If one of those kids wants to build there, there's a possibility that some of these rules could wreck that.
And that goes for anybody that moves into town. That,
Right,
you
but
know,
I'm
we're
just
fortunate
thinking
to
of
live
my
in a
own-
town with a lot of planting
I'm
and
just
land,
thinking
but
of my own personal, what I can see
that's exactly why
down the
I
road.
said nay.
These kids, they gotta go somewhere, and if you got land for them, and then all of a sudden, you can't do this or that, then you don't have land. You know, that's I guess where my, where I.
Or it
have-
can become very
have-
expensive.
Yeah, right, but
So-
it just, I guess I just have, that problem of the not permitted is what
Okay.
I'm having an issue with.
Let's ask Russ, can we vote, I mean, these are substantial changes, right?
So the ones we had done previously were not substantial, because those were already agreed upon, we're only changing grammar, pretty much, and striking something that was already changed at the previous hearing.
Yeah.
But adding 2 more uses, I'm not sure on.
And you're not comfortable without checking with the attorney.
Yeah, correct.
So,
Because
Well,
I
one of
don't
them-
wanna make a
Wait.
mistake and throw out the whole process.
One of them we already did.
We
One of them
did.
you
We-
already did at
we-
the
we
It's
previous.
did
only, it's
one,
only
but-
one
But we
change that we're asking
didn't do,
about.
we didn't do the other,
Yeah.
the other 3. And I mean, it's like the grading of, and recontouring of the land, it's not, I mean, I'm just thinking out loud to myself that you'd have to do a little bit of that to make it, but I mean, it's not as if it's gonna, it wouldn't affect any different of what's happening, but you might have to do that to get, like this guy with his house,
That's right.
Driveway or something, and sure.
you know?
I
so-
don't, I mean,
But if it's
I-
not permitted, then
Well-
you're done.
Well, then we also have the ZBA process, so somebody can go to the ZBA for
Right.
a hardship.
but don't they have to have a wetland scientist be part of
No.
that?
no, I don't
Because
think
there,
so.
that would
There's only,
be,
only a wetland site if there's
is a
a
dispute.
dispute. That's the only reason you'd have to go.
But
And
there'd
then-
be one
Because they
there.
could go to the zoning board of adjustment and say, I know it says it's not permitted, but I can't use this land at all if I don't do something. And the zoning board
Well, hopefully they have the common sense to
to say.
say what
okay.
they should say, but that's a risk you take.
What
And
if?
again,
There's a lot of what if there, Ed.
the intent of this, and I listen to interpretation, but, you know, if you're gonna build a house or whatever, you're gonna have to do some driveway or something, you're
For
gonna have
sure,
to do stuff.
yeah.
But what we're aiming for is major, you know,
Well,
major stuff.
technically, this would be somewhat of it's right directly across from the water from here to there. And that's what, I have 2 lots, right directly across from
How
Lake
how
Winnipocket.
big are they?
They're 20 acres apart.
Oh.
One of them is Knights Meadow Marsh. I
Yeah.
mean, that is my piece of land.
Right.
And so I'm,
So
in-
we're abutting, no, not quite.
no, you're not, you're ways from me. Yeah, you got a long walk. We can get there.
All right.
So this is what my problem is I'm thinking of my grandkids.
Yep, I understand.
And that is where I'm having a problem with this, because I don't want the Conservation Commission to say, hey, you can't do this, not permitted.
Well, the Conservation Commission doesn't have any,
Well, they will when it comes time to
legal-
do that culvert permit, because that, can guarantee you that they will know. I've been there, I know how it works. It's not the
well,
first.
they don't,
Yes.
legally, they don't have
No,
much.
but they can come out and they do voice their opinion, and they can make
Yeah, they
it
can
rough.
voice their opinion.
Well, and sometimes they get, like, if you had to go in front of like the zoning board, they can give their opinion there, and then before you know
Yeah,
it,
but
there's
it's
a
gonna
problem, and
happen,
that's,
it is gonna happen. That's
Yeah,
gonna happen.
it is. There's
Th-
gonna-
that-
there's-
That's a
There's
guarantee in
gonna
this
be
town,
conflict.
that is gonna
There's
happen.
gonna be conflict. and
Yes,
there's a number
because
no
they
matter
don't
what.
wanna see it. And it's, that is where I have an issue with that.
Yeah.
so I think, again, as we're voting, but if you wanna vote
We've already
yay,
voted.
well,
She
you
already said he's
abstained,
abstaining.
okay, okay.
We voted for it.
So
We
it'll
voted
go
against.
forward then.
It'll
So
go
it'll
forward
move
to the,
forward.
Well, so,
But you
We're
can
not-
check and see if that's a substantive change.
But if it
If it
is,
isn't, then we can change that. before it
yeah,
goes
because
to
if,
the town.
if this, I want that changed, in other words, I'm gonna go on a 0, on a no vote.
well,
because-
that's not what just happened then, because you would have to say
You abstain.
nay,
Well,
because it
So-
might not,
s-
correct?
Yeah, you would have to say no. if
You'd
you were
have to
gonna
say no.
okay, so I would have to say no, but you would check this out to see if we can change these 3 not permitted to cups. If I say no,
Wait,
we already voted here.
yeah, I was gonna say, we
Well-
already voted.
well,
I'm not sure I think he was thinking that it was,
right, I mean,
I
so
don't
we're
need
not
to
gonna
speak for
change those 3.
Not
That-
tonight.
No, but, okay, so.
I mean, I'm all in favor of changing it. I don't have any problem with changing it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I wanna see it changed, so I mean,
I'm just,
can I change my vote?
I'm not sure the rules on that one. Like, once again, I'm new to planning board stuff too. I would have to check the legal thing to change the vote.
I wanna change, I mean, I'm not gonna vote for it if we can't
What happens if
change
there's a
those,
tie?
If
those
there's a tie, it
3.
goes to the next
I
meeting.
wanna,
'cause
I
we don't
wanna
have
see
enough
those
members to make
changed,
it.
this, these here
so
levels.
if there's a tie, just so you understand, so if there's 2 nays and 2 yays, what then happens is it goes back to the planning board.
We'd have to wait
And
till
in
we
the
had
and
5
in the
members.
meantime, Russ can look into those. Am I wrong? Just correct me. I just want to make sure that, I know what it's like sometimes not understanding what's going on because it's
Yeah.
happening so quickly.
right.
Then that point you can see about changing those ones that Addie has a problem with. Correct? That gives you the time to do that, not that you want any more time spent on this.
No, I mean,
Or
I
you- I
wanna
don't
get
know,
this over
but you know what I
with,
mean?
but
I get
but
it. I'm
also-
sorry.
I guess I don't wanna see that etched in stone, that, I guess is where my problem is that those 2 things etched in stone, no permit. I have a problem with that. I do,
Um,
and it will bite us down the road.
It's biting us right now.
I know it is, I know it is, and I mean, I'm not trying to be a hard ass, but it's like, I just,
No, I respect your opinion, Ed.
yeah, I guess I'm just looking out for down the highway,
Yeah,
my kids,
yeah.
you
Well,
know?
And even though, as I take it, people in general, it's the way
Well,
I look
yeah.
at it too, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
But,
Or somebody that wants to do something with their property.
No, and once again, it's not whether it's gonna pass or not. It's
That's right,
just-
so,
It's
so,
just the town voters get to come in, vote on it. If they vote they like it, it passes. If the majority of people say they don't, it doesn't. You're just giving them the ability to vote.
right, but whatever,
Yeah.
you know what I said. all
I
right.
know what you said.
Yep,
I
I
agree
don't
with
need to
you.
repeat
All right.
myself.
so it's
Sorry.
done then, I take it.
I,
If you abstain, unless you can't change your vote, it's
Well-
done, right?
I know, the chair, this one, do we want to do a roll call vote? Just have a roll call. I thought we did do a roll call vote.
So, can
Ro-
I, make an amendment that we change those, or
No,
that
wait,
still
wait.
does not work?
Right,
Doesn't work.
I think that's,
I would really like to get this off the table tonight.
I get it, I do get it, but I guess that's the things that I guess when I get really looking at that, I don't dig it. There's-
Do I get to decide here, Russ?
Yeah, you're the boss.
oh, now it's your
You're
turn.
the boss, so if that's,
What's the rule, what's the ruling here?
Or you can just have the motion, I mean, do the vote, and have a roll call vote, because it's not clear what everybody voted, and then just do a roll call.
But on just this point?
Oh, no, I was gonna say do a roll call vote, because now we're not sure whether the motion even passed or not.
Well, it did pass.
Because weren't you arguing that you didn't want to vote that way?
Well, the vote was taken.
yeah,
Okay.
I abstained from it, so it's like,
Okay,
that's.
so now the motion passed, so that's the form of the ordinance. From my understanding is once you accept the ordinance, it's accepted. And that's the final version. That goes to the voters because it's been accepted.
Yeah.
That's
I-
my understanding.
I
can
want you to look
it.
into those three things.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
want
see
you to
if we
look
can
into
make
that.
See if we
We
can
can
make a
look
change.
into that.
If maybe next meeting we can have a motion and a vote on just those changes. I mean, we already voted.
Right. If we could do that, that's cool. I think that down the road is gonna be haunting badly. And it's not really, that gives you an option.
Well, let's do that. Let's
Let's do that.
So you're gonna make a motion to have me contact the town attorney?
Yes, let's
Because
have
I'm
a
gonna
motion
use
to.
legal line for that, so.
I make a motion that Russ contact the town attorney about amending the,
Not permitted to see.
Yes.
For which
Right,
two
right.
sections? Could you just circle them for me?
there,
I'll
Yeah,
write
the
it down.
contouring and grading of the land,
Okay.
both level 1 and level 2 cups, and then drain and dredge and fill in, changing the flow of water, level 1, level 2,
Okay.
both cups.
Oh.
That way, that gives everybody a chance,
okay.
instead of just not permitted.
So,
So I'll
we have
look
a
into
motion,
that.
we have a motion on the table.
Second.
And let's vote on the motion.
Aye.
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 This is still have the attorney look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just have the attorney look at it. Or have Russ look, yes.
Yeah, I'll send an email Monday.
And see if we can
Fix that.
fix that at our next meeting and vote on the vote on that amendment.
Got it.
And the other one,
I know, this is,
I'm sorry,
Well-
I just,
you're trying to do
All
what you
right.
think is best.
well, no,
That's what you're doing.
Yes,
when
you
I
are.
get looking at the thing, I don't really, that's not the best way out.
All right.
But, I
I
mean,
think
no.
our next meeting will still be at more than 5 weeks before town meeting, so.
Okay.
Hopefully, we'll have more members.
It would be the 20th of January, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks would be the 24th of February.
Okay.
So,
So we would still have time.
so there's still time.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right, now we just
we
have
good
to
with
approve-
that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, now we just have to approve minutes.
Okay.
I gotta go home. I got.
I know. Hopefully, I have supper waiting.
Okay, review of draft minutes from last November 9th and November 18th. So take a look at those minutes and let me know if you have any problem.
Can we, can we move to approve both in one motion?
Yes, you can, if they're gonna be as written.
I mean,
Who's
I
good at
looked
grammar, because I'm not, so I'm not gonna catch anything like that.
Well, just make sure the dates are right.
Yeah.
was I really there? No.
The one in the back.
Yeah,
No, this is good. I mean,
Yeah,
Russ,
he's on
He
it.
does a pretty good job.
yeah, he does.
Yeah.
so I move that we approve the minutes of the meeting November 9th and November 18th as submitted.
I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I can't vote, but.
You're in favor, aren't you?
So,
It's
I-
8:15.
so we're all good with that, and if that works, I'll be all happy. But I just,
But will you vote for it?
All right, well, we're adjourning the meeting.
when it comes
We gotta
time to
close
put
it
the
at
X down,
8:15.
Hey,
what would you
Get a
think?
motion?
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second. Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
I can't make a motion.
But we're glad to have you here.
No, very
There's
good.
some things
Thanks
that,
for coming,
when
Russ.
you've been around a long time,